apologize for the content drought that's been going on for this past bit. I have been working on a startup company that's manufacturing board games that are all handmade. The one that we're currently working on is called Arma, which is the ancient Greek word for chariot. It was actually based off of the Iliad's funeral, like Patroclus' funeral. And it's a very simple game. You're flicking a disc, trying to bounce off of pegs or your opponent's disc, and it's the first to make 5 laps without being knocked out into the gutter. If you're interested in that or want to see more about it, I'm going to place a link in the description to the actual company's YouTube, as well as the Kickstarter's pre-launch page. The Kickstarter for it will start up on March 22nd, 2021, and I would appreciate it if you guys checked it out on there, because it's what I've been doing for this past year and a half, give or take, and it unfortunately has taken up a lot of time, but I'm proud and happy of what I've produced. But with that said, let's go back into what we're actually here for. This is the Odyssey. Now, someone here made this map using this program called ArcGIS, which is it looks like it's been made by the National Geographic World Map, or at least a base map. So, using this map here, someone took the entire world and then narrowed it down to the Mediterranean Sea, which happens to be the sea that has changed the most throughout history, aside from there was once an ocean that cut across I believe it cut North America in half. It had a ton of apex predators and whatnot, like it was basically a meta, for lack of, to use Tier Zoo's analogies on there. The meta was pure predator, and it was just a terror to go through. It's one of the reasons why the plains and whatnot are so fertile in this area in the world. Now, clearly that dried up, and the Mediterranean has done the same, and it's done the same several times throughout history. Because of the reason for that is because there's only really 2 entrances here. So you have I'm going to butcher all these names, and I apologize. You have the Straits of Gibraltar, and you have the straits where Constantinople was, and towards which is really just a river's pass. It's a little wider than a river passage, but it's still a strait in towards the Black Sea. Now, the Black Sea is not large enough to fill the Mediterranean. And the last one would be around Pirate Alley, which is one of, I can't remember exactly where these straits are, because I haven't actually sailed these waters, but I believe it's somewhere here. Yeah, there it is, the Suez Canal. So this here is where Pirate Alley is in the world's shipping lane. So many resources and ships go through this area, which is why the Horn of Africa is one of the most deadly. It's one of the top three pirate areas in the modern world. But when these passages get blocked, the Mediterranean Sea does dry out, and it has throughout history. And so not really funny, but an interesting fact is, because it's dried out a couple times throughout history, and we know this for a fact that it has flooded, which actually partially leads credence into the Noah's Ark theory, the Noah's Ark story that, yeah, the world has flooded in the past. It may not say that Noah himself existed, but the story of entire civilizations and, your known world, your country, just flooding in about 40 days. It can be very true. Like, it's not just tsunamis. Because considering the Mediterranean Sea, if you actually go diving into places like the Sea of Crete, the Aegean Sea, and the Mediterranean Sea, you can actually find entire civilizations, stone structures, temples, entire houses. I believe there's even some artifacts and whatnot underneath the sea that were once entire city civilizations in places that man would never have been able to go to. And one of the reasons for this is because the Mediterranean Sea has sunk. Entire islands have disappeared off of the map. It's very, very interesting to find. If you're interested in that, I can try and dig up some more information on it. I only have more of a dilettante's perspective of it, but I can dig up more and give you guys a better understanding of it if you're interested. Sorry about that. Still having a bit of a coughing up problems on there, clearing out the throat. Got some kind of chronic rhinosinusitis that just refuses to go away, and I've just learned to live with it. So without further ado, we're going to get out into the journey of Odysseus. Now, all of that stuff that I said earlier actually has actually has a point to this. If you watch the way Odysseus took his journey, things might have changed. So the locations on this map may not be the exact same, and on top of that, some of these straits may not be as dangerous as they once were. I haven't sailed these waters, so I don't 100% know. And other ones might even be more dangerous today. For example, there's a strait around, I believe it's here where you see the Charybdis and whatnot, which is between Scylla and Charybdis, that's it. I've got them mixed up. Between Sicily and mainland Italy. Where this strait here, I don't know how dangerous it is. It might not be that dangerous, but back then it could have been extremely dangerous. So with that said, our story is going to start off in Troy. So we're going to go without further ado into here. So Odysseus fought with the headstrong fighting forces of the Achaeans, which are the Greeks. So he fought them in Troy. Odysseus became a war hero after he infiltrated Troy by scarring his own body, throwing filthy rags on his back like any slave. He slipped into the enemy's cities, roamed its streets in disguise, and whoops, my mistake. He was a totally different man, a beggar, and no one knew him at all. I do believe that this might be a mistake here, that no one knew him at all. Correct me if I'm wrong on this, but if I recall correctly, Helen of Troy actually recognized him. It was either that she recognized him while he was doing this, or she recognized them when they were inside of the actual horse. I'm not 100% sure which one was which, but either way, she warned the actual Priam and the rest of the Trojans, and true to fashion inside of Greek mythology, no one gives a crap what she had to. It was Cassandra who recognized it as a threat, but Helen recognized them. So the next one here, we're going to go to Ismarus, which is Ismarus, the Cicones stronghold. Odysseus sacked the city and killed the men, but as for the wives and the plunder, the rich haul we dragged away from the place. Instead of leaving the city with their loot, Odysseus and his men stayed while the Cicones sought out the Cicones, called for help from their neighbors living inland. Both armies battled it out, but the Cicones broke the Odysseus' lines and beats the armies back. Now, he didn't want to do this journey. He wanted to absolutely avoid it, but people weren't happy with their share of, you just fought a war for a decade. This isn't enough for 10 years of my life in this fight. I want more loot. You got your lion's share, now I want mine. It was pure greed to go after that. And they actually lost more than they gained. And so, with that, they're leaving the actual mainland of Greece and start going towards the lands of the Lotus Eaters, which is in modern-day Tunisia. So, I believe this was underneath the Egyptian Empire at the time, or at least whoever ran it. But the Tunisians, butchering these pronunciations, I'm sorry, could have actually existed at this time. I can't remember who actually would have been here. It might have been Kush. No, Kush was down here, if I recall. Yeah, I can't remember exactly. I think it actually started with a C or something like that. I can't remember. If anybody knows, please let me know in the comments. So, the lands of the Lotus Eaters, which, so they land to this place. People are starting to get high, considering this is basically an opiate that they're consuming. And he needs to get them back home before they just rot away and die here. So they leave they leave there and go down towards the land of the Cyclops, which is actually in Sicily. And when they're here, here's where they fight the Cyclops, and we all know what happens where nobody tricks and blinds Polyphemus, and this is right here where Odysseus' trouble actually breaks down. Because Cyclopses are the children of Poseidon, and you do not want to piss off Poseidon or any Greek god on there, especially if you're on this massive 10-year-long journey to return home, where you've just basically had to travel. I'm not the best at maps, but I believe that's only like 23 nautical miles, and you have basically overshot all the way over towards the Lotus Eaters, gone all the way up to Sicily when you really need to go here to Ionia. You've overshot your land. And so from there they go down towards the Aeolus' island, which is the land of the wind god. You can see here there's some island chains over by in between Sicily and mainland. And from there they go towards the land of the Laestagonians. Or the Laestagonians. Now, the Laestagonians, I believe, it's been a while since I'm going to have to go through and reread these, but yeah, this is where they were the land of the Cannibals on there. And the land of the Cannibals were in mainland Italy, actually above Rome, which Rome didn't exist at this time, but they would have been the Tuscan. No, the Tuscanans might not have existed yet, or they might have just been founding, considering the founding of Rome was Romulus and Remus, which were I believe either the sons or the grandsons of Aeneas from the Odyssey, from the Iliad, and I believe in the Aeneid as well. Quite an interesting story on there. So, from the Laestagonians, they then go down to the land, to the home of Circe, which is Corsica. Now, from here, we all know the stories of the swinifications and whatnot, and I always had a dark thought whenever I read this spot on there, that they just had a feast. Who were they eating? They were actually eating people, in my opinion, in mind. And they stayed for a year, probably knowing in the back of their mind that Circe gets her food by transforming men into food, and you're consuming food. You're eating people at that point, is what I've always thought of in the back of my mind. I could be wrong, but just every time I read this spot, it's something that always hits into me. Now from here, they travel down towards Spain into the land of the dead. It's actually near Barcelona. To take the closest major city that I know of. Again, I'm not the best at geography. So once they leave the land of the dead, where they meet Achilles, Ajax, or Ajax, whichever way you want to pronounce his name, it's pronounced in many different ways. And then they go down to... They return back to Circe, inside of Corsica, before they start heading into the Tyrrhenian Sea. Now, the Tyrrhenian Sea, I'm not 100% sure. I don't know how dangerous these waters are, but judging on these passages within the Iliad, within the Odyssey and other type of historical sources, as he gets down and passes through the land of the Sirens and whatnot, it sounds, which is down in Naples, there probably is it's probably a really hard strait to pass through, or to reach these natural ports. And there's some ports where you really only have like 4 feet of clearance within like a 3-foot wide radius. And if you miss this basically you miss it by 6 inches, your ship is sinking. And in those days and ages, we didn't have like the whole sonar technology to read the entire bottoms of the oceans. You just had to know these things. And if you didn't, you were dead. It's one of the reasons why sailing is just... It's a very dangerous activity, and you don't mess with the ocean. So from there, they go down towards Scylla and Charybdis. Now, Scylla is named after Sicily, or Scylla, I believe, as it was called, or Sicilia. believe the name actually comes from Scylla, but I could be wrong, and I'd be welcome to be corrected in the comments below. But as you see here, this strait here is where they go through, and I don't know how dangerous this is because I've never crossed it, but it is very possible for a strait like this, even though it looks like a natural harbor, could be incredibly deadly and prone to whirlpools at different points in time. Now, if you don't believe me, there is a small strait somewhere here and towards the Oceania, Australia region that I believe it's near the Solomon Islands. It's between one of these chains here, where you basically got like a week or two to pass through this, and any other time of the year when you're passing through, it's a death sentence. You get whirlpools all the time, and then the whirlpools that are so strong they'll take down at even the most experienced of sailors. It's a deadly strait, and even though it looks like it could be one of the most calm passes, you know, you're sheltered by islands and lands, but it's because of the way the water currents work, they meet in that one spot, and it just makes it can make an extremely deadly moment. Now, the moments of of Charybdis, where it talks about it sucking things down and then spitting it out back up, that sounds fantastical. However, there's a natural wonder that still does that to this day. Now, I could be wrong again, even though this is my home country underneath here, but I believe it is, it's by New Brunswick, I believe, near St. John. Nope, that's not New Brunswick. Where is it? New Brunswick. Yeah, Gulf of St. Lawrence, I believe it is. Inside of I believe it is near St. John. Where is St. John? There. Okay, so it's Bay of Fundy. That's it. Yeah, that makes sense. That was sticking with my mind. Yeah, okay, so there's a spot here near the Bay of Fundy or inside of one of these areas where you actually have a natural wonder that does that exact thing. It's called a reversed waterfall. And what it does is it does exactly as Charybdis is described. It pulls water in like a whirlpool and then shoots it up inside of like an actual spout. It is a fantastical sight to see. I've never personally seen it, even though I've done work out inside of St. John's for a couple of years. But I've never bothered to actually go and see that natural wonder, and it bothers me. I actually want to go back and see it one day. So something like that, fantastical story in these monsters, you got to remember that the Greek word monster actually means to teach. So they may not have believed that these monsters actually existed, but they were using it to explain, these are dangerous things that exist in the world. Here's what you need to know and understand that. There's a dangerous whirlpool within this water that will suck you to the bottom and spit you right back out. They don't really have the science to explain why this happens, but it could very well be a natural phenomenon or have been a natural phenomenon at the time. So with that said, we're going to go down to the home of Helos down at the bottom of Sicily. So here is where they eat the cattle gods, the cattle of the sun gods, and basically damns the crew, but saves Odysseus because he didn't actually eat it, where then he gets marooned upon Calypso's island at over by the island of Malta. Now, fun fact, actually, I believe there's a cave here on Malta that you can go and see that's called Calypso's Cave and whatnot, which is said to be where Odysseus had stayed. And that's actually true with Circe as well, and Polyphemus, that there apparently are natural caves and whatnot that you can go and see. Now, it's from here that we go down to the land of the Phaeacians, which we're now back to the Peloponnese, which is actually very close, because, this is near Corfu. So he's very close to his home, and he just needs to be sailed right back home towards Ithaca, where we land at home, where he's finally reunited with his wife and murders a bunch of the aristocracy, and you have one of the biggest Deus Ex Machinas of the uses of all time, where Athena drops down and saves everyone. And with that, that's basically the Odyssey summed up really, really fast and done completely live without a script, off of just raw memory. Sorry if it was hard to follow, but I thought that this resource was amazing. And if you're studying it, I recommend you follow my videos, as well, like my summaries. Reference back over towards this as well, because it can help picture it out in your mind just what his journey was. And even though he just had to travel, like I said, it was almost like only 23 nautical miles, which is like nothing. He had to go from here to here. Sure, it's a dangerous trek. Like, you can't just go right across like that or always just hug like this. You can end up dead. As you see, the safe traveling path is really something like that, and then you would have to hook back up along and then catch your winds and land here. But with that said, I'm gonna end the video here. If you guys enjoyed this, please like, subscribe, and if you have anything that you can say that can help me to improve these videos, please let me know, and I look forward to seeing you guys next time. Take care, everyone.